big game Sunday. Can we start off with any team news that you've got for us?
Yeah, we can start off with that. No, not any real update on that. We have 2 more training sessions to go. A lot of good players in contention to play.
Just give us an idea what the mood is around the place at the moment and how important it was to bounce back from that Chelsea defeat last weekend.
I mean, if we look at here at the training center, it's a big weekend for the club. It's a focused feeling. We look forward to it, yeah. Was it important with the result last weekend? Of course it was. It was even more important with the performance, and coming back to a lot of the things and standards that we value so highly in the way that we play. But we need to continue to build, and it's going to be a tough challenge on Sunday, and we need to be on our very best behaviour.
Chelsea are the bookies' favourites. I know that won't bother you at all, but you've beaten them in the league this season, and it's the same final as last season, and you beat them in that final. Psychologically, can that have any impact, and is that kind of a message you might be telling the players?
I mean, I don't think there is any mental obstacle for us saying that we couldn't beat Chelsea, because we've done so at numerous occasions. But there also shouldn't be any complacency going in and saying like we're playing against a very, very good team, and they've been beating us also at numerous occasions. So it's really about coming down to the best team of the day, and preparation plays a huge part in that, and that's what we're focusing on now.
The WSL looks a difficult proposition now for you to win, but is it still a focus on this season can still end on a big high?
Yeah, but I think it's so important to take things game by game, and now we have the cup final, and who knows? Maybe another team runs into what we did against West Ham away, and you have 2 stonewall penalties, and you don't get them for you in that game, and then that might change. It's a 22-game league, so the margins are gonna be so close to it, but we can only control what we can control, and that is taking one game at a time and making the very best out of it.
Jonas, the debate over Arsenal's post-season game has been reignited again in some way. When Serena Wiegman was asked the question earlier on this week, she said that she's surprised, and she says that it's not good for the players to go. Are you surprised with her comments?
I mean, it's her comments. I focus on Arsenal, and I focus on the cup final here now on Sunday, so that's all I have to say about it.
Didn't impact you in any way? Do you think you have to speak to her about it at all? Or?
No, very good communication with Serena. It's not an issue at all. Very, very good communication, collaborating with her, with the players that we're both working with, so no problem at all.
Final one from me, Jonas. Steph Houghton has announced a retirement from football at the end of the season. Could you just put into words the kind of legacy that she will leave in the women's game?
I was fortunate enough to work together with Steph last summer when doing the World Cup coverage. I think she has had a phenomenal football career, both at club and at national team level. She's a phenomenal person, both on and off the pitch, with some tremendous leadership qualities. I hope she can feel very proud of her career, and I wish her and the family the very best here now, going on for the future.
Thank you.
Thanks
so much. Tim?
Yeah, hi Jonas. With the kind of games between Arsenal and Chelsea, I know Art's asked you about this before. It's a thought I've had a lot about how these tend to be quite seesaw games. Like there tends to be one team has a bad result and then they rectify and course correct, and then the other team has a good result.
Yeah, let's hope for that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to ask. You also talked a couple of weeks ago about not being fussy about the types of motivation you use. I wonder how much that's a motivation. The fact that last year going into the final, Arsenal had lost to Chelsea a week before. Have you spoken about any of that at all?
Not yet. We've been we're very focused on our processes and how we need to play and in order how we need to train in order to get there. And then closer to the game, we might have some motivational parts coming in.
And the Villa game, the second half, I watched the Villa game back, and first of all, the first half wasn't as bad as I thought it was at the time when I watched it back. But in the second half, I thought I really started to see that repeatability. Again, like the cross from the corner of the area that you talked about a little while ago. And honestly, it's the first time in a while I thought, okay, I can see stuff here that I've seen before. Does the second half, does that feel like a bit of a light bulb moment, a bit of a breakthrough for the players, or am I over-indexing that?
I think if you look back from, you can take all our games this season, I think you can see a clear shift in the way that we have been able to play against low block from after the New Year's until this point. Our second half against Aston Villa is probably our best 45 minutes against the low block, but I think you have seen trends in the home game against Everton, in the home game against Tottenham, for example. So there's been trends coming, but not as consistently dominant as we are in those 45 minutes against Villa. So I think that is very pleasing to me, and I think you are right with that. The first half is not as bad as I think people tend to feel. When you don't get the result, it's very, very hard to get what should I say, an unbiased view of how the game actually is, and you tend to jump to conclusions, and you want to, all your narrative becomes around the result, and you try to justify that narrative in any way possible, just squeak it in with a shoehorn if possible. But that wasn't the case. But I think we both can agree also that the second half is better than the first half. So there were changes that was necessary to be made. But the second half performance I was really pleased with. It was a really, really good step in the right direction for us against low blocks.
And just a last one from me. We've also talked about how the home crowd has made a difference in the Arsenal-Chelsea games. Obviously, it's neutral venue. It does look like it's going to be more red than blue at the moment on ticket sales. But how important can the fans be, particularly in a neutral venue like Sunday, in kind of driving the team on?
One thing, the fans are very important for creating the atmosphere and the belief in the stadium. And our fans have been so great the whole season with doing so. But I mean, secondly to it, when we speak about motivation, for them, to win for them, for our fans, for all the hours that they put down traveling, supporting our team, it's for them we need to play. It's for them we need to win. Like, what they're doing for us with this club, it's so special. Like, if there is something that needs to be having that extra push for that, it's our supporters, and we want to do everything to reward and repay them for the faith that they're putting into us. And Sunday is a great opportunity for us to do that. So we're gonna do our very, very best. Thanks.
Kent.
Hi Jonas, you talked a bit about how Sunday is such a massive day for the whole club with women's and men's games. Can you just give a bit more insight into like what the feel of this place maybe has been like over the past few days? Kind of imagine there's like a nervous buzz around the place and excitement.
I think it's a real clear sign of how far the club has come on its journey. Playing finals, playing top games in the league, and doing so on really, really good foundations, and feeling that we're here on sustainable foundations, being able to repeat that time and time over again. So I think it's a real positive feeling, and we're courageous and we're brave and we're going after it.
And you talked about a one club mentality at Arsenal. Has that kind of been exemplified this week with the two big games?
Yeah, and once again, if I take the supporters' perspective onto it, see the travelling supporters to both games on an Easter Sunday, and tell me that we don't have one of the most committed fan groups around in the country. I think it's incredible, and it really shows how big the support is for both the teams.
You talked about the recent games against Chelsea. From a tactical perspective, can you learn more from the win this season or the loss?
Both. You learn different things to it.
How do they differ, perhaps? What you learn in the win and what you learn from the loss, how does it differ?
It's a great question, but me answering that would reveal far too much of how I want to approach the game on Sunday. So I simply cannot. But it's a great question.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
You've obviously come up against Emma a lot during your time at Arsenal, her at Chelsea. This will be the last time. You kind of, how do you feel about that kind of being the end of your, I suppose, rivalry of her, at least in her Chelsea capacity?
Well, like I said, I really enjoyed the challenge of those games. I think what Emma's done with Chelsea has obviously been very, very good for them. I also think, and you can see that, of course, they're been the number one winners in this period. They've also been the number one spenders, and that tends to have a correlation in football. And you also see that in the transfer window that they now had when they run into injuries. I think they might have spent more in this transfer window here than we have been in Arsenal doing for the last 5 transfer windows on player acquisitions, and it just shows that level of investment that they have been able to do in order to be so successful, and I think that's of course been a big part of that as well.
How do you kind of react then when you see that level of investment? I assume in the Chelsea team, do you kind of take that to your superiors and say this is what we need to be doing, or is it tough to compare Chelsea's situation and Arsenal's situation in that sense?
Oh, it's 2 totally different clubs and ideas and philosophies on how you want to be successful. Of course, that is very, very different, and it's not about one of the others copying the others. You have to do your own thing. But as a league, I think what Chelsea is doing is very good, because I think the biggest difference between the men's and the women's game, if you compare that from a European perspective, is that the best salaries, they're not paid in England in the women's game. They're paid elsewhere in other clubs to it. And that's what you're seeing in the Champions League. That's why English clubs have a very hard time winning the Champions League also, because the level of investment at other European clubs is so high. And of course, if Chelsea wants to go there, they need to be able to match. If we want to go there, we also need to compete on that. So I think it's good with clubs investing, because it sort of brings all of us up to another level.
And just finally from me, the big women's football story, at least WSL story of the last 24 hours, is one of your fellow managers losing their job. Is there any frustration from you that in the week of such a big cup final that so much of the attention is back on relationships and codes of conduct?
Well, for me, it's not any of my attention that goes towards that, so I haven't really thought about it that way. And as I said before the year, I don't know any details about that case either, so I can't comment on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good. So
Hi, Jonas. Quick question about succession planning and the Australian squad you're going to take over there, because you mentioned last week you were going to take the young professionals, and so do you expect to be able to evaluate them and see if you're going to use them next season, because you got a lot of 17 to 20-year-olds on loan everywhere in the championship and below?
Yeah, like I said, the post-season trip can be a good opportunity for us to see some players that we don't see as often in our environment, to get a really good understanding of what their current level of performances are. So that's one of the reasons and uses we can have of the trip.
Thanks. We'll come to the call for a couple of quick ones. Tom, do you want to begin?
Morning, Jonas. Thank you for your time. Can I just follow up on Kit's question about Emma and it being your last game against her? Will you miss the rivalry with Emma, the kind of maybe the competitiveness with her and maybe all the banter sometimes that you've had between each other?
Like I said, I've really enjoyed the games from a challenge perspective. I think that has been really exciting to play against her teams. But rivalries in elite football, they will continue to come, and one ends and another one emerges. So I don't think there will be any shortage of rivalries in the WSL.
Can I also please ask you about, in terms of this final, can you understand why some people might say that this game is more important for Arsenal than it is for Chelsea, in the sense that in terms of cup competitions, they've got the FA Cup semis and the Champions League semis, and in terms of cups, this is your moment in a cup. And I suppose I'm just wondering if you would agree that it's more important for Arsenal.
For me, I will always say everything is more important for us. Of course, it's the most important thing for us that we win. So from my point of view, Arsenal is always the most important thing, and Arsenal winning is the most important thing. So I totally agree. It's the most important thing.
It's brilliant.
Thanks.
See you on Sunday.
Thanks, Tom. Glenn.
Just to pick on what Tom was saying, Jonas, how would you characterise your relationship with Emma? I mean, you must bump into each other at various things. I guess you're going to be in touch as well with Emily Fox, is going to be one of the players next year.
Yeah, it's not really how WSL works, that you just bump into each other on various things. London is also quite big. Actually, one thing that is a big difference between UK and Sweden is the amount of contact that you have with your fellow managers. In Sweden, you tend to do a lot of sometimes trips together when it's international competitions, or you meet up for an international week, and then you exchange experiences. You talk about the game, and you talk about all those things that we actually need to develop together. And what I've really liked with that in Sweden is that you understand that while you are rivals, to Tom's point before, you actually have a lot more things in common than you have against each other, and you can learn a lot from each other. And I think those are relationships. They are important, and we don't have any really good platform in the WSL for building them. That being said, and I said this numerous times, I really look forward to the time where me and Emma is not on the opposing sides here now, and we're gonna cooperate with a player like Emily Fox, and we want the best for her. And I think that will be really interesting to have football discussions with her, and getting her perspective on things, and why they have done certain things, and what they've learned in Europe, and so on. Because in essence, what they trying to achieve and have achieved is a lot of the same things that we're trying or have achieved here with at Arsenal. So of course there is a lot of lessons to be learned.
And you may be aware of this, but there's a tradition in the men's game here of managers going into each other's offices after a match, maybe with a bottle of wine or to have a beer. Does that not happen in the women's game?
Only with Matt Baird, the Liverpool manager. Yeah, he's very good on that. He's a real connecting force, Matt, but not with anyone else.